Today we're talking about the Xbox Series Handheld, which is the rumored and/or heavily anticipated and/or assumed new piece of hardware coming to the Xbox family of consoles for late 2024. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So there's going to be quite a bit of discussion, speculation, and general chatter about just what this device could actually end up being. There's a lot of questions and a lot of things that we will be pondering when going over this particular iteration that I'd like to give the little bit of a titling to as the Xbox Series E, so then it matches with the Xbox Series S and X. So E fits right in the middle and makes sense, and honestly would be a huge missed opportunity for Microsoft not to deliver on. You guys let us down a lot. Don't let us down with the E titling with the Xbox Series E handheld. So moving past that, let's try to imagine really what this is going to be and really what it could be and what it has to offer for those in the Xbox ecosystem. So I guess the first kind of thing to really talk about is kind of like where we envision this device fitting in. We're supposed to have a new iteration of the Xbox Series controller with better haptics, for the vibration. It's supposed to have some more advanced quiet features to it, so it doesn't make a lot of noise and sound as the Xbox controller does. And yeah, I hope that wasn't too loud for you. Anyways, so yeah, we're supposed to be getting that this year in 2024 as well. So let's think about that. So I'm assuming the controller is going to come first, and then the hardware will be more of a fall kind of thing. We're seeing the decline of sales for the Xbox consoles over 2024. That's the projections from AMD and Microsoft and Xbox. We're seeing the decline of the Nintendo Switch in its lifespan because it is reaching the end of its life. The next Nintendo console is supposed to be coming. It was assumed it was going to be in 2024. Now it's looking like early 2025. This could be the perfect time for Xbox to actually slide into the console market with a handheld. Now, there's going to be a lot of factors involved here. The question is, are they going to go the route where this is a Game Pass cloud machine? Is it going to be like the PlayStation Portal, where it's something like literally its only functionality is being in the same like household as your Xbox Series X or S, and kind of just functioning as a device over Wi-Fi, where you are just streaming games to it, you're just getting a signal to it, and that's it, or you're just using the cloud. Now, this would be a very hard thing to pull off. Like, from the perspective of mirroring your console, totally fine. I mean, there'd probably be a lot of latency, there'd be a lot of, like, pixelization. It probably wouldn't be ideal, kind of like with the PlayStation Portal setup, but it would be a cool thing that some people would appreciate, having that smaller screen. And I mean, we kind of have already had that sort of thing, right? With the Xbox on like PC app, you would be able to mirror your console, and I think at one point we had that going on like phones too, and that was ages ago. The other thing is they are supposed to have finally, because they said like it was supposed to come out like 2 years ago, where any game you own on your Xbox is available to play through the Xbox Cloud. So to stream through the cloud. Now you will have to have a Game Pass Ultimate subscription for this functionality to work, but anything you own that isn't on Game Pass, you are supposed to finally be able to use this feature to stream any digital game you own through the cloud with the subscription, everything like that, of course. So that is another way that they could kind of go at it, is kind of making this, again, well, I guess the general full concept for the cloud aspect of it is this thing that's kind of like the PlayStation Portal, where it's just like a local device with mirroring functionality and or just streaming functionality. Now, some big issues with that basically come down to connectivity. The waiting period. Sometimes it gets up to like a half hour or more to have to wait to stream a game on Xbox. Maybe they're going to improve the cloud streaming blades, blah, blah, blah. But, like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to get this fancy new, like, peripheral handheld and, like, have to wait half an hour to like use it, that makes it worthless. Like, and that is a legitimate question. The other thing is it going to have like functionality of just Wi-Fi, or are we also going to have like, 5G or something like that functionality? Is that going to be an option so we could take it on the go? Would we have to get a data plan for that? I feel like that's less likely, but it could be an explored option. And then I think, moving past the whole aspect of this being like, let's say, a cloud only, like a streamed only, a mirrored only device. Let's think of it from the other possible perspective, that this is a physical native game running experience where you actually like the Nintendo Switch, where you would download games to your handheld, to your device, something like the Steam Deck, something like, I think, like the ROG Ally or whatever it's called, something like that kind of a device. Now, there's a lot of questions around that. How would they do it? What kind of functionality would it have? What kind of cost? Let's kind of break that all down and talk about it. Let's go over that and kind of, dive deeply into what this sort of offering could provide. So, I think the starting point here really is, will this be a third SKU? That, in the sense of, like, we already have developers complaining about having to develop for the Series X, to develop for the Series S. Will they also have to develop for the Series E? Will developers be able to opt out? How will old games run? Will it automatically just be like, oh, 360 games you owned, they run on the Series E automatically? Is the backwards compatibility team going to be handling that? How does that work, right? And is like, are we going to get to that point where Xbox is doing more like an iPhone type thing, where over time it's just like developers kind of choose, I'll support all the way back to this Xbox and cut off this Xbox, and then kind of be like, is it going to be cloud only? So it'd be like, okay, with the Xbox One, some of the current gen games that run for Series X and S, you only get like a cloud version on the Xbox One, right? That's the only way to play it. Is that going to be kind of what the handheld is, like some native play, some cloud? Going to be a mix? Going to be a hybrid? That's a great question. The other thing, moving past that, is like, will we have experiences tied directly to this handheld Xbox? Or is it going to be something that maybe shares technology? Is it possible that they're going to use the innards, the technology, the almost a spec? Because you gotta keep in mind, like, a handheld is fundamentally different from like a pure console thing. And I'm gonna try to dive into as many of these topics as I can. It may sound like I'm rambling, but there is a focus to what I'm talking about and the direction that I'm going with everything that I'm going over today. But like the Series S, let's look at it. So could we theoretically see the Series S kind of like gutted and turned into a handheld format? I mean, theoretically you could, but there'd be a lot of questions about like heat, battery life. Mostly heat would be a thing, because the Series S can get really hot, and it's already a really compact form. And I know we have advancements in technology since the Series E came out, or Series S came out, to put that into the Series E, but I'm also not sure if they could really pull that off. Is this going to be like the supposed Surface team handling future Xbox designs? Is this going to be like a Surface-like device? But, they take like, like a tablet-like thing, and they've taken the Series S components, and, well, I mean, you'd have to adjust a particular thing, but you kind of get what I'm saying, is as close as they can make them the same, because that would in turn make it a lot more easier for developers to develop for this, this console, because then you'd be, instead of splitting your SKU between three, you'd just be still doing two. You'd have the automatic quality of the Series S, but in a handheld format, I think would be a really big win, because that would be a situation where you would basically be having something like the Switch, but actually having performance, actually having higher quality resolution. And I think that would be a big win if they could make that possible. So it really is going to be a question, like, is it going to be still like taking the Series S versions of games and just kind of like downscaling them automatically to the system? Will it be like it just force runs everything at a lower resolution, caps stuff off? I think that's another good question too. Will it just automatically take the Series S kind of technology and stuff like that, and just be like, developers can choose to further optimize on top of it, or they can just leave as is and it kind of works. I think there's really quite a lot of questions about this, right? Like, very, very, like, full of just concepts and what they could possibly do with this. So it really is, so far, we've got either a cloud model with like the optional local kind of mirroring, so cloud slash mirroring. We have a brand new SKU for Xbox, which I think would cause further conflict with a next gen Xbox, maybe in like 2026. And then, the other option, taking the Series S, gutting it, and putting it into a handheld. And I think those are all very fair avenues for which this particular option, like, I mean, those are the options for where this could go. And it'd be very interesting. So let's move on to the next part of it. The screen. What kind of screen are we getting here? Are they going to go for like a basic LCD kind of thing? That's what the Nintendo Switch did. And it's rumored for the next Nintendo console going to that too, because it's a lot cheaper to do LCD, and also allows them to do an OLED model down the road. Or are they going to jump right into an OLED screen and provide a much better, vibrant visual sort of panel on there? And with that panel, are we going to have 2.1 features? Are we going to have like VRR, variable refresh rate? Are we going to have HDR support? Are we going to lose features basically going into this handheld? I mean, you're going to lose something in that process, right? Whether it be resolution, quality, and whatnot. But are they going to kind of like cheap out? Is this going to be a 120 hertz screen? Where you can get up to 120 FPS? Is this going to be just 60? I would imagine the cheapest solution would be LCD with a 60 hertz screen. But will they go for something fancier? Will they try to get a little bit more of a push out of here? And, the screen options really, at least I see it as LCD or OLED, really, right? Unless they come up with another partner with some other screen combination thing going on, right? That's kind of your options at this current point in time. So that's the screen, is like, either something fancier like OLED or something cheaper. And then that leads us into the battery life. The fancier the screen, the more draw. Same with the fancier the technology in the innards, the more of a power draw it's going to be. And like, what kind of battery life are we going to get out of this? Is it going to be something that's like good visuals, good quality, but have a power draw where the thing drains in like an hour of gameplay? Or are they going to aim for 3 hours? Are they going to aim for 5 hours? Are they going to have like a low power mode that kind of conserves power for you to game longer? What kind of battery target are we going for? And with the battery, is this going to create something that's heavy? There's all these like balances you have to make in making a handheld that's kind of well-rounded and does everything. And I do ponder what people's expectations are. Are you expecting to play this thing for like 3 hours at a time? Are you expecting 5? Are you expecting more? Or are you expecting less but a higher quality? And those are all very, very, very fair questions to ask out of this particular handheld device. And I think that's a really interesting notion, is battery plus screen. What are you getting there? And then the materials of the console itself. Is this going to be something where it's like the PlayStation Portal, where they've like split the the controller on two ends, and you're kind of just with like a screen in the middle, kind of like a quick application thing? Or are they going to have something like the Nintendo Switch with the Joy-Cons, where it's like a new version of an Xbox controller with a new haptic, feedback and everything on the sides? Is it going to like slide in like Joy-Cons? I mean, can you even do that from a, I guess you would say, trademark and or a patent type scenario? Are they going to do their own Xbox spin on it? Is this going to be something where the controller is built in? Are we going to be able to detach the controller pieces? What kind of quality are we going to get there? Because people are going to want to have that feeling of a usual Xbox controller, and it's going to be in a format that's, a device that's a little different. So that one will be really, really interesting. I think they'll probably stay as close to the actual Xbox controller scheme as they can in order to emulate all the way back to like original Xbox stuff. Obviously you want backwards compatibility if you are using Series S, parts, or it's going to be like working with everything else. It'd be really cool to do videos going over how all these games run on the handheld hardware. It'd be just utterly fascinating. For me, it would be really, really quite fascinating. I'd love to dive in and do that kind of thing. I think it would be really interesting. So, screen, battery, the outer components. One other element is connecting it to the TV. Are we going to have like an HDMI out kind of thing? Are they going to have like some sort of other solution set up? Or is there going to be like a dock? We dock the Series E into some sort of weird little container thing, or is it just going to be something by itself where you just plug it into the TV? What kind of accessories are you going to have with this kind of thing? I think that's a lot to think about as well, is like how you output it to your screen, how you interact with it on the big screen, or is it solely just something that you're just on the go and that's all it offered us? Or is there going to be more functionality? Is there going to be a dock system? Is there going to be some kind of weird plug-in controller system? Is this going to be your Xbox on the go being like, well, I want to play Halo with friends, so I'm going to bring it over and play on there? And like, what kind of storage size are we going to have here? Are they going to be like really cheaping out on it, like the base Nintendo sizes? Or are they going to allow us to put in little cards? Is it going to be like NVMe? Because we're going to need faster storage if we're going to be running those new games, right? So it's going to be like PlayStation where you can plug in new NVMe sticks. Are they going to go for more traditional with lower storage? But that wouldn't work either. That's a very good set of questions, honestly. Heat. Like that is probably the biggest worry, is that thing can get hot if it's using Series S parts, really anything. It's like, how are you going to create functionality where it's like these games that can be really, really demanding, don't cause burns and stuff, or don't heat up, or don't really overheat and cause problems, right? Like your device burning itself out, functionality over long gameplay extensions, people extending the life of their handheld console by plugging it in and taking it on the go, or sitting at home and having it plugged in and playing for like 10 hours plus. Is this going to be like a huge heating issue? Because the Series S, it gets hot. Series X, it can get warm too, right? But like the Series S runs hot, and getting those squished into a handheld is a questionable thing. And you can definitely go for better. Like, there's a lot more of a technical thing behind this too. I want to get that across because some of you are a lot more tech savvy. And you can go for more expensive components internally that can help with power consumption, can help with heat. But there is going to be that balance of making this something that is this going to be like an affordable thing? Or is this going to be a high-end device? Is this something that's going to compete with the Switch, the next Nintendo console? Or is this going to be something that exists on its own SKU entirely? Are they going to be trying to make this an enthusiast model where it's super high-end, super pricey, but it's just awesome? Or are they going to go for something that's like more affordable, more of a general population, to try to build up their user base? Because that's something Xbox is really struggling with, is to grow their numbers of users on via the Xbox platform. So like obviously the full goal is to help grow Game Pass further. So this device will first and foremost be based around that concept, whether it's cloud or natively. That's going to be their main draw and focus, is to increase the user base. So I'm thinking really what we're going to be seeing here is something probably in the middle, something that is a lot more affordable and over time you can iterate upon. Because that's another thing too, is traditionally for handhelds, and I don't think we've ever seen Xbox actually jump into the handheld space. Like they've released some games on other handhelds, and obviously they've got their Game Pass baked into all these other third-party things, but they've not really dove into a handheld space like PlayStation has with Vita and so forth, and PSP, and Nintendo obviously huge history, where they basically not too long ago even took their home console and their mobile or their handheld and combine them together to make the Switch, right? Kind of the first iteration with the Wii U back in the day. And then, yeah, the Nintendo Switch, and then the next model will probably iterate upon that further. So it will really be interesting to see, is Xbox going to go for something that's more affordable? Or are they going to go for something more expensive? Kind of like, what is the full end goal of this particular model? I do also ponder the color scheme. I'm kind of wondering if they're going to go for like more of the traditional, kind of black aesthetic and style with a matte black, or are they going to go for the matching Series S? Or are we going to get like a colorful, flavorful device like the Nintendo Switch has, where it's kind of like get different Joy-Cons, different color styles? And it's going to be really interesting. Are we going to have like limited edition handhelds? Are we going to have weird, silly Xbox wrappers around them? Are we gonna see iterations of this thing? Is it gonna come out and just kind of be like an LCD model, and then a year later they're gonna be like, bam, OLED? And how far are they gonna take this? Is this an experiment? Is this something they're all in on? How much more does this technology need to advance? Or have they been cooking this for a long time? I have limitless questions surrounding this thing. I mean, I've been talking for quite a while about all my quick thoughts on the whole situation and stuff like that, but I really do ponder like where this is going. Is this going to be a new exciting thing to cover? Is it going to be really interesting for those that want something that's a little bit more high end for the go? Is this like the new motion controller era of gaming, where it's kind of like all the parties are, because PlayStation's rumored to be doing a more intense handheld too. So we're gonna have a next gen Nintendo console mixed with an Xbox handheld mixed with a PlayStation handheld. We're kind of like the motion control era, where it's the Wii versus the Kinect versus the PlayStation Move, and I really do wonder what the direction is. Can all these handhelds survive? Are they all going to sell well? What's going to happen with them? But it was kind of interesting talking about all of this and going over it. I think I covered the basis of it. Do you have any thoughts? I'd love to hear them too in regards to how you think they're going to achieve things. I think best case scenario, somehow they squish a Series S into a handheld. But it will be fascinating no matter what way they tackle it. From backwards compatibility to regular game releases, I kind of can't wait to see what they do with it because it'd be really, really interesting. Again, liking the video is great, subscribing is great as well, and we'll dive into more of this stuff in the future.